about the job search, you actually have to start and think about who you are first, right? And that is the self-exploration, that's the self-assessment, and figuring out what that self-knowledge is and who you are. Because, as you'll see, I'll talk about, if you don't know who you are, you really can't market yourself, can you? So that's what I talk about. I talk about the building your self-knowledge, social media, developing smart job search strategies, and ultimately that really boils down to self-promotion. Right? That's why I kind of teach people that the job search isn't actually a search, it's a self-promotion process. All right? That's why at the end of my talk today, we're all going to tweet out to the world what you learned about who you are and what your great, your superpower is. Who has a Google page and listed what their superpower is? Anyone answer that when they signed up for a Google profile? No? No, you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. So let's get going. I'm going to talk about the new rules in career management. A couple of my new rules, because there actually are quite a few, but for today's purposes, I'm going to just talk about a few of them. Then we're going to look at how to assess your strengths, how to articulate them, and then how to advertise them into the world. Now, I know that some of you are in that field of publicity, advertising, marketing. How many of you are on Twitter? Okay, good, wonderful. And if you're not already, come on in. If you're not already, then hopefully you'll get there. Okay, so the new rules. You are the boss of your career. No matter what, I hate to say it, every one of us in this room is self-employed. All of us, right? That means that you may have some, jobs that last 1 or 2 years, but every job is temporary today. So that makes life a little tricky, right? We all have to learn how to manage our careers almost like a business, and you are the boss of your business and your career. That's important. And the other one is differentiate or disappear. So you cannot, gone are the days where your resume can look just like your friend's resume. Now, I think the majority of you have a creative bent, and I know that people in more creative fields tend to design their resumes beautifully, and they don't all look the same, thank goodness. But there is still a very important way to create your resumes and to discern what's important so that stands out. So you really need to differentiate. And differentiating also means getting on Twitter, getting on LinkedIn, and shouting out to the world who you are and what you bring to the table. And that's what we are going to be talking about today. So this is I made this little saying up. If you can't stand out if you don't know what you stand for. All right, so that's really, really important. Why is this important, and why is it so important to do what you are, do best, right? Which is really what this whole topic is about. Because you're happy when you do what you do best, right? You are more successful, and you are going to be more in demand when you are more successful, when you do what you do best. Do you all know what you do best? No? Okay, well that's what we've had to learn. Gallup, has anyone heard of Gallup polls? In fact, we're probably, I don't know if any of you are political junkies, but there's been a lot of polling. Gallup is one of the, they do research, and they actually ask people this question at work, if you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day, do you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day? Only 1/3 of Americans said that they do. 1/3, right? And basically, if you are in a job where you are not doing what you do best, which means you're not doing what the skill that you are trained to do, or that you love to do, or that satisfies you, you're going to be pretty unhappy and disengaged with your work. And that's actually what they found, that all the people who didn't do what they were best at doing, 100% of them were disengaged from their work. Now, there are a lot of artists in the room, people, you've all chosen a path to some degree, am I right? You've kind of gone on a pretty clear path. It may not be 100% clear of what you need to do, but you've chosen a field, maybe a vocational field, somewhat of a field, And so there's a passion for something. Am I right? Somewhat? Yeah, okay, well, and you know what, we'll figure it out along the way, and it changes. One's career is like a river, you know, it really, it's not linear. It's not linear at all. And so, you know, in terms of what it is that you love to do, it's one thing. And then in terms of a job search in your career and jobs, that's actually like surfing or a wave. Imagine you're surfing. Anyone surf? Okay, all right. So what happens? I've never surfed in my life, but I can imagine, and I liken it to this is your career today. And I actually have written about it in a book, which I'll tell you about afterwards. But one's career today is like you're surfing. So you're on a wave, and you're riding that wave, and it feels great. But what's going to happen to the wave? It's going to come to an end, right? Unfortunately, like a potential job, it's going to come to an end. And you're going to have to find that new wave and get on that wave and ride that wave until it comes to an end, right? That is one's career today, which is why it's so important to constantly assess who you are and, you know, continue to kind of have a good sense of yourself so that you can continue to manage, you know, your career path, essentially. So I'm going to show you some really important, you know, steps that you can take in order to get there. Now, ways that you can figure out what you're best at. Assessment. Okay, anyone here ever taken any kind of assessment, gone to the Career Services office and taken an assessment? Yes? Did it help? Good. Was it a personality assessment, like an interest inventory, all kinds? Do you want to tell us quickly?
It was everything.
Yeah?
It kind of helped me differentiate what my strengths were, what kind of jobs I would be interested in. It told me what my strengths were in my character. So.
Okay, great, and it makes sense, right? It resonated for you. All right, so that's important. It has to resonate. You know, other ways to figure out what your strengths are is just to really think about what is it that you enjoy. You know, maybe it's not something that you've ever really been paid for, but you love to bake, and everybody loves your food, right? And you know that you're a good cook. Now, you may not want to, you know, kind of destroy that experience of, you know, enjoying just having cooking or baking or whatever it is, a hobby. But if you're really good at something, you never know, that might be a source of income one day if you're stuck at figuring out what it is. Maybe you're wonderful at drawing, right? I know that there are lots of different skill sets in this room. And so just assessing that, thinking about all the things that you love to do, just writing a list down. Because one day you might be at a loss for you might need a second income stream. That's what I encourage everyone today, and especially, I mean, there are lots of talented people in the room here today. Thinking about, you know, multiple streams of income, especially if you're freelancers. We're all freelancers today. We live in you know, kind of in a freelance, you know, agent economy. And so we all need to be thinking about, well, what other ways can we make money? And one way to do that is to think about all the things that you love to do and assess that list. And then, you know, think about what do other people say about what I'm good at. So those are all kind of less, you know, formal, more organic ways of doing it. Today I want to spend some time looking at your strengths. I want to show you how you actually can do an exercise that is going to help you look at your strengths. Other important things are to think about your passions and your values. And in fact, the exercise that I'm going to take you through, the bigger version, when you have an hour to sit down, today we have another 20 minutes, but when you have more time, I'm going to send everyone, if you write your name down, I'm going to send you the full exercise to do at home. Because it helps to have some time to think about it and, you know, and to think about what it is that you love. And then you can figure out what your values are, and all of this helps you define who you are and, you know, give you a better sense of how to articulate who you are when you're marketing yourself. All right, so you all have notebooks in front of you. This is wonderful. So I want you to think, we're going to do a little exercise here. Okay, so kind of take a deep breath, and I want you to think of one experience. It can be from your entire life, going back to grade school, you know, high school, your college years, a work experience, a volunteer experience, what's one experience that you can think of where you felt a great sense of pride and accomplishment and satisfaction? And if you've done it more than once, you experience a consistent feeling of satisfaction from doing it. Can you take one moment, since we only have a few moments left, take a moment to think about what that one experience is. What led up to it, the environment, what was your role in it? Just a few thoughts. Volunteer, their experience? Or? Okay, super girl. Ooh, okay, awesome.
So, my name is Carla. One experience I remember is when I made it to the Division I women's basketball team for my undergrad. And I walked on the team. And my freshman year, I tried out for the team. I didn't make the team. So I tried again the second year, and I made the team. So that was like the biggest accomplishment in my life. And it was something that I always kept in my mind. Being persistent is a key factor that I upheld till today.
Okay.
So.
All right. And maybe I guess one question is, what skills did it take for you to accomplish that? What do you think? I mean,
Well, definitely.
Persistence is an attribute. It's a personal attribute. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
It is a story, and I know that actually today one of the topics is about storytelling, because really what I'm asking you to do here is to think about stories from your life experience, just like that one, so that when you're in an interview, you can use stories like that to talk about yourself. And that's so important because it makes you just sound so much more interesting, right? You're not just going to say, well, you're going to, just giving a generic answer about what you're good at is not quite as interesting as maybe aligning it with an example like, making it onto the basketball team. I'm wondering if anyone has a more specific example. What really helps here is to have a very specific example about maybe doing something that, that's a wonderful story, but let's hear from you. Yes.
I recently designed an off-Broadway show poster.
Wow, great.
It was an absolutely incredible, very frustrating experience. I was working with people who had never done really graphic design before, so also I was working with a person who was uncomfortable letting me talk directly to the client, so I had to go through several different people to get all the information out. And I think, and there were times when I really wanted to quit because I was just so upset and frustrated and just angry at the whole situation.
Well, what was your specific role in it?
I was the designer.
You were the designer.
Yes.
Okay, so were you managing people?
No, I was being managed.
Okay,
yes.
all right. So, but yet you didn't have quite the, management that was helping you actually figure it out. You
I had someone who was essentially making sure that I got all of my materials to the client, but I wasn't allowed to talk to them, which was kind of frustrating.
Okay.
But going down to the New World stages and seeing this huge, 7-foot tall poster, and knowing that I made it and I created it and it was real, it was right there, was just an incredible feeling.
Okay. So what specifically would you say? I mean, you have graphic design skills. What else? There's obviously, so there's something, we want to kind of think about the nuances in what you did to make that happen. Apart from persistence, there's the personal attributes, right? But then there's also a certain number of there's the soft skills and the hard skills. I think that's what we need to differentiate here. And so you want to kind of help somebody else understand what is it that you did to make that poster happen, right? I mean, you had to negotiate, a whole team of people with it, to some degrees, right? All right, so in your words?
I feel like one of, I guess, as you said, the hard skills, I had to create a mock-up and go through an entire workflow with these people, and also I was given the play in advance and told, if you have any ideas, let us know. So I feel that interpreting dramatic pieces and then creating graphics around them is definitely a skill that I have and that I've gained from experience.
Fabulous. Okay, so I know that's such a wonderful story. It's very rich, actually, with lots of great examples of a problem, right, or a challenge that you faced, an action, and a result. Okay, and so what we want to think about is, you know, every one of you has, I don't know, maybe some of you have written down those kind of experiences. Your particular experience included some kind of challenge or something that you did, a problem that you encountered, or just something that that you had to do, the action that you took, and the result. Right? That's what we're looking for here. And the result is your transferable skills or a skill set. Has anyone heard of these terms before? Or transferable skills? Right? Very, very, very important word there, actually. Every single one of you has a whole plethora of skills. You have a whole list of skills. I would like to hear from people what skills they have. Give me an example of a list of things that you know that you're good at. Please hear from someone else in the room I haven't heard from. Anyone want to hear? Yes.
Thank you. I've had experience as a sales trainer, as a corporate trainer.
All right,
in that
training.
role, I have established a skill set in facilitation, presentation, coaching, things of that nature.
Okay. Fabulous. And what would you like to do now? What are you looking to do in your career?
I'm looking to transfer the skills that I developed in that corporate environment into a new industry.
Okay, wonderful. What's your name?
Monsi.
Mansi. Okay, that's so beautiful. Oh, yeah, I can't you right there for that answer. So literally, she's got this whole skill set from probably many different things that she's done over her entire life and then experience after college, etc., etc. But she might be changing industries. So what she's going to do is transfer those skills over to another industry, and that's what we call transferable skills. So everybody here, I meet so many people in my work who tell me, oh, I have no skills, or, well, I haven't haven't worked full time yet, I've just come out of college. Every single one of you has a range of skills that you have cultivated over the years, whether it was in high school, college, volunteer work, and that's what this exercise that I'm going to give you to go home with will help you think about. And I want you to literally answer that question of that experience question. What is an experience that you had where you felt a sense of accomplishment or pride, and then answer all those things around the experience, explain it. That is going to help you draw out the skill sets that you're looking for to be able to then articulate. Is all this making sense? And we're kind of going through it so quickly in half an hour, it's not a lot of time to do it. But does that make sense? Okay, so those are the outcomes. And why is this important? Okay, it's really important to be able to, say what you're good at because, well, number one, you don't need confirmation. It's important to before you go out and try and market yourself. Now, a couple of people here are in advertising. How many people in marketing? Okay. When you're trying to sell a product, what do you need to know?
The product.
Hmm?
You need to know the product.
You need to know the product, right? All the nooks and crannies and nuances, because you've got to be able to sell the product and say how it differentiates from the other products on the shelf in the store, right? Imagine. So really it's just what you're doing here is promotions, marketing and promotions and advertising, and think about how much time they think, advertisers, think about one small product and how much time they even spend on a commercial, right? And all the thousands of dollars that are spent on commercials and the little nuances to advertise that commercial or that product. So, in terms of marketing you and thinking about what is it that you're good at is really important because, number one, when you've done this exercise and you then can see, wow, I didn't realize these were really the skills or my transferable skills, or well, because what you can do is then you can see that they're all, you've have lots of check marks, and wow, I really have cultivated this skill. I've done a lot of things that translate into this skill set, and so I can say I've got this skill set because now I found that even the volunteer job that I did when I was in my first year in college actually did help me to develop this particular skill set. So now there's confirmation that you have it, and then you feel far more confident actually selling that, right? And it also just makes your whole pitch more compelling and more convincing. And that's really, really important today, considering there's a little bit of competition in the job market, right? All right, that's why this is so important. And when I work with people as a career coach, I tell people we all have to just take a step back and think about who you are, because you can't sell yourself if you don't know what the product is all about, right? Okay, so articulating it. I know that unfortunately we had a little time. So personal branding. Has anyone heard this term before? What is personal branding? It's kind of, you're all just starting. Many of you are starting your careers. Some of you have been have been through at least 1 or 2 jobs already. But personal branding is very important, and it's how you're going to distinguish yourself from the next person. So it's that differentiate or disappear, okay? So that's really important. In addition to putting your picture up on LinkedIn or not. How many of you don't have a picture on LinkedIn? Okay. So very important, right? That's what it's all about. That's what I teach people. You have to, even having your photo up there is important, and that's also part of the branding piece. All right, so how to articulate it. So let's just quickly go through what branding is, because actually your attributes is a key part of the branding. So, being bold, this is my little acronym actually. So, being willing to stand out, everybody has to do that today. If you don't stand out, it's going to be pretty tough, right, in this job market. The R stands for being remembered. How can you be remembered? What will you be remembered for? So once again, this exercise that I'm going to share, that we've just done one piece of it, but you're going to take it home with you, is to help you think about these stories which are going to help you be remembered. Right? Stories are much more interesting. That's why storytelling is become so big today. And it's really important that you kind of figure out how to tell your story, and you basically what you're going to do is do magic and bring those skills into your stories. All right? Then there's A, which is your attributes. Okay, so knowing what it is that you're good at, and articulating that, and being natural and authentic, right? There's all this talk of authenticity when it comes to social media. Being yourself on social media, right? There's no greater form of transparency today. So that's really, really important, is to figure out, your voice and, using social media. And I tell people to use Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, all 3 of them. But you just got to be careful what you do on Facebook, right? And Twitter, for that matter. All right, and the last one is being digitally distinct. Okay, so that's also important, and that's, social media is so important today for every single one of you, no matter what field we're in. I'm a career coach, right? And I actually get a ton of my business through social media, okay? You will all find jobs through social media, because that's where your friends are, and that's where people are, and that's where your next manager or your next colleague, you're going to connect with them through social media. So it's really, really important. And figure out what Google says about you, all right? Who finds himself easily on Google? What does Google say when you put your name in there? Do you come up? Or does someone else with your name come up first? All right, so we have to change that, right? Once again, that's differentiate or disappear. So, you're valuing out your skill set. It's part of that concept today that we call a value proposition. Okay, so figuring out what is your je ne sais quoi. Okay? What is it that you bring to the table? Now, I asked you just to do, one question, like think of one experience in the time that we have today, but basically when you answer and you come up with 10 or 20 of these experiences that talk to what it is that you've enjoyed, have felt a sense of accomplishment and pride doing, you're going to see a pattern there. And, either you sit with a friend or you sit with a career counselor or someone who can help you deduce exactly what that pattern is. How is it that you do things, right? What is your approach? What is your, so not only is it how you solve the problem, but how do you do it? And that is going to make up your value proposition. So you can think of, what's the skill? What did you do? And maybe you can all think of something right here. Let's maybe practice something, and I would love to see if we can literally tweet something out today. If you read the title of the description of the workshop, we were going to do that. So let's just think about, what is it that you do? What are the problems that you solve? And what is it that you create in the end? What is the result? You want to just think about that for a minute?
The interns, at NYC Interns, if you want to
Let's
tweet.
hear from everyone. What is it, what is it that you do, and what are the problems that you solve, and generally what kind of results do you make happen? I want to think about figuring that out. It's kind of hard. It's quite a bit of work to kind of think about, but there was someone. Yes.
Well, for me right now, I'm studying information architecture, so a lot of it for me, a lot of people take different paths, but I think that there's a big gap sometimes in social media to create information and the technology behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the problem, what I do is act like a mediator or bridge between the technology and content creators. And
Okay, that's a nice little tagline, because that's really what we're looking for, is like a little tagline. The bridge between information technology and
content creators.
content, right?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
creative people like writers may not necessarily want to know the technology, the media that they have to
Okay.
do to present the information to people, but they want to be able to do that.
So,
It's finding the best way to do that without having to deal with the technology.
all right. So what you want to say is, I help people find the most. Help people find the most efficient way to. I know there was a lot of information there. I didn't get it all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
By, whatever it is that you do, and then resulting in successful something. Sorry, there was a whole lot of information there that I didn't quite get. But you understand? But I think fundamentally you can say, literally on your resume, information architect, right? Is that correct? And then your tagline, everyone here, we're all, to some degree promoting a product. You are the product. Everyone here can create your own tagline, right? If you have friends who are copywriters or good writers, think of, spend some time thinking, like you're the bridge to, right? The bridge between something, or at the intersection. A lot of the people I work with have lots of disparate skills, but they work at the intersection of, branding, innovation, and information technology, right? So just what are those key things that you, where you work, and then what is it specifically that, there's just something about the way that you do it, and when you package that up, that creates your personal value proposition. Okay? Does that make sense? It's a little bit of it's a big concept to grab in such a short period of time. But does it make sense? Yeah? Does anyone else want to think of what they might want to say, about what they do? Anyone want to take an opportunity? Did that help for you?
Oh, definitely. I did have a question,
Yes.
just in general. So if you're still studying and maybe developing certain skills, you have certain skills that you'd like to move and kind of transfer into other skills.
Sure.
You can't necessarily say that's what I do best yet.
Right.
You want to get there.
Sure.
And how do you kind of with the kind of distinguish or disappear? How do you kind of put those skills? I have those skills out there.
Just,
but
you know, you can put them in your repertoire on LinkedIn, for example. You can still include them because it's really important that you include those skills that where you want to work. I mean, maybe you've used them, but you want to develop them in your next job, right? Include them in your LinkedIn profile, for example. There's a whole section on skills and expertise. Include that because your LinkedIn resume is just like a paper resume in an applicant tracking system, where it's all about SEO, right? Search engine optimization. So the skills that you have are very, very, very important. I run a lot of workshops teaching people how to do that, and there's not a whole lot of time for that, but does that help? So, even if you've got basic knowledge of skills, lots of people are just learning them all, you can say on your resume, for example, basic knowledge and skill sets, and you should. Your skills and competencies section on your resume is one of the most important sections because that is what is going to help your resume or your LinkedIn profile with the SEO, all right? Same as your Twitter account, for that matter. All of these keywords are very, very important. In fact, they are at the foundation of the SEO for all of us, all right? SEO is important for every single person here, search engine optimization, because you're all your own boss, right? We all have to market and sell ourselves, as if you were selling your own business, because you are all selling, aren't you? Yes, you. Okay.
Donna, we're going to have to wrap up.
All right. Okay. So, well, good. Guess what? Okay. So now it's your turn to, if you have a Twitter account, I don't know if you can read mine there, but it just says what I am, and even on your Twitter account, you've got 100 spots for 160 characters. And I say they're inspiring career explorers and job seekers to be bold and embrace social media. So that's kind of my, little tagline. And it's really important that you create this value proposition. You put it on LinkedIn and you share it with the world. And actually, I've created a series of workshops called Market Me Mentors. And the tagline for that program is called Tell the World, Help the World Know What You Know, right? Because that's the problem, right? The world doesn't know what you know. First, you have to know what you know, and then you have to share it with the world. And that's where, what I'm teaching you now kind of connects with social media. It's so important that you that you do use social media to tell the world what you know. Alrighty, so I guess on that note, I'm going to ask if you, invite you all to connect with me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on my Facebook page, which is @Careerfolk. Give me a big thumbs up. Yes. Okay. Like my page, right? And I hope I'll find you and see you on Twitter, because Twitter is so powerful for helping you with your career. And LinkedIn, it goes without saying. And actually, on my website, careerfolk.com, if you download, I've got 10 steps to making a compelling and convincing, and I've got a whole lot of other C words that to help your LinkedIn profile stand out. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your